When one talented teenage Australian Open qualifier falls, another one rises. Learner Tien, the legend you are, bro. Hey, I'm Christian Bassnight, and welcome to Christian's Court, where I cover tennis from all angles. If you haven't yet already, make sure you subscribe and click the notification bell so you are notified whenever I post more Australian Open updates throughout the fortnight. Yes, the teens are taking names down under. First, of course, 18-year-old Joao Fonseca with his first round win over 9th seed Andrey Rublev, then 19-year-old Joao Fonseca, who took down the 6th seed Casper Ruud in the second round. But by far, the most impressive win belonged to 19-year-old Learner Tien. The American outlasted 5th seed and 3-time Aussie Open finalist Daniil Medvedev 6-3, 7-6, 6-7, 1-6, 7-6. The match lasted 4 hours and 53 minutes and ended just shy of 3 a.m. in the morning. Medvedev did not look good in his opening round win over Cassidet Samrej, so I knew that Tien had a solid chance at getting a set or two, but to beat Medvedev in 5 sets nonetheless, after holding a match point first in the third set, these new age tennis teens are just a different breed, man. I tell you that. Medvedev did start this match pretty well. He had a point for a double break to go up 4-1, and that's when Tien saved it with a forehand winner. And I think coming out of that game helped Learner settle into the match more, and his level rose from that point forward. Clearly, Learner is a quick learner. Because he broke Medvedev twice more to win the opening set. Medvedev will be especially annoyed about the second set loss, as he broke Learner in his first 2 service games of the set, but he still took the L. Medvedev struggled to hold serve for much of this match, and the biggest problem for him was his second serve. He only won 19% of second serve points in the first 2 sets, but you got to give credit to Tien for his smart returning strategy, as he stood a little bit closer to the baseline on the due side to return, while on the at side to return, he backed up a little bit more and took the return from a deeper position. Medvedev also, though, did not go up and after the second serve like he probably could have, and he didn't get pretty much any free and easy points, which meant that Tien was pretty much always in the point whenever Medvedev hit a second serve. And of course, judging by the stats, he came out on top of the rallies once Medvedev threw in that second delivery, and it's because he was able to get in the offensive and get on the upper hand more and run Medvedev ragged a lot of the times. Tien does not have a big serve either, so he lost multiple break leads in the second set too. So it came down to who was the more solid player from the ground in the tiebreaker, and the young American simply beat Medvedev at his own game, which was simply something to see in terms of just outlasting him from these grueling baseline exchanges. There were some 40-shot rallies, 45-shot rallies. It was just pure. People call it pushing. I don't know if you call it pushing, but pure counter punching is what I'll call it for now. The third set was kind of a similar story, and you think Medvedev would run away with it after breaking at first, but he gave the advantage right back to Tien at 4-all. And here Medvedev taunted an official and got a point penalty, and I thought it was over, especially after he lost that game to go down 4-5 and try to serve to stay in the match. But he managed to push it to a tiebreaker where he saved the match point with an ace, nothing Tien could do, and he ultimately came out on top to send it into the fourth set. And that's when Medvedev steamrolled in set 4, only dropping 1 game, and Tien dropped off considerably. He seemed to be struggling with his energy levels, and I thought, okay, Medvedev has this in the bag. I'm going to go ahead and make my women's recap video, and this will all be over. Medvedev's going to cruise to another 5-set win, but I was score watching throughout me making the video, and I was shocked that Tien was still hanging with Daniil. And actually, the 5th set had its fair share of momentum shifts, as Medvedev missed 3 break points in the opening game, and then Tien broke first to go up 3-1 before Medvedev broke him right back. Daniil later broke again at 5-all to serve for the match at 6-5, but Tien once again fought back, broke at 15 to force a deciding 10-point tiebreaker. Medvedev led the breaker 6-4, but the last 6 of 7 points belonged to Tien, handing him the biggest win of his life by far. With the victory, Tien is the first qualifier to be a top 5 seed at the Australian Open in 20 years, and he's the youngest American to do so in 35 years. Learner is currently 97 in the rankings, in the live rankings, so he will be making his top 100 debut after the tournament, win or lose his next match. Before I get into Tien and praise him for his performance, I gotta talk about Daniil Medvedev. The question on many people's minds is this a sign that he is officially washed? He now drops down to number 6 in the live rankings, and this is his earliest loss at a hard court major since the 2018 Australian Open. Daniil is 28 years old. He still has, honestly, about 5 more good years, so I wouldn't be too quick to write him off. His game style, though, it's clearly not working right now. Many times Tien would bully him on the baseline, and the young American was often the one who dictated proceedings for real. And like I said before, Tien beat him at his own game. Medvedev, he had a unique game when he rose to prominence on the tour, but a lot of guys are able to hang with him from the ground and outlast him from the ground too. So something's got to change with him. Maybe he needs a new voice in his ear to add different elements to his game. I think he should try to incorporate more things like serving and volleying as well, because clearly the game is evolving more. These players are getting much, much better, and Medvedev is just staggering in terms of his improvement. He's not reaching that same level. And I do think also he has not been the same since the Australian Open loss to Sinner in the final. That does something to you mentally to keep getting these heartbreaking 5-set losses in slam finals. Of course, in Nadal, he lost in 2022 at the Australian Open final, and then now last year, the Sinner loss. Again, he has not won a title in a long time, since Rome 2023. So all eyes, I think, would be on Medvedev to see whether he can somehow bring it together and finish again in the top 5. I did have him winning the U.S. Open. That pick is not looking too hot right now. But again, we also have to remember that Medvedev just gave birth. His wife gave birth. That was a joke. His wife just gave birth to their second child, and he did not arrive to the Australian Open pretty late until later. So I'm sure that might be a little bit on his mind too. And he was outspoken about wanting the offseason to be a little bit longer. It is short. So I think Medvedev, the loss might be a good thing for him to kind of have an extended off period and have more time with his family. So I'm going to pump the brakes right now on saying that he's washed or cooked right now. I'm going to give him U.S. Open. I think that'll be a little bit of a determining factor. But once again, he still has more years in play. So, yeah, definitely obviously not the result that him and his fans would want. But I'm going to be cautious to rule him out for continuing to achieve big things on the tour. Now, time to give my praise to Learner Tien, man. The athleticism, the mental fortitude, just everything. It's crazy. Only 19 years old and pulling off a win like that. He also handled that awkward post-match interview very well, where the interviewer talked about how he knows where Learner lives, and he was also holding his pee. I understand what he was trying to do, but it was just a mess. Very, very cringe. Anyways, he's not getting the same love as Joao Fonseca, which is unfortunate. Fonseca had a lot of hype after beating Rublev in straight sets in the opening round. Deservedly so, I'd say. Although some of the hype that Fonseca got was a little bit much overkill. You had Brad Gilbert saying that Fonseca would finish top 10 and qualify for the ATP finals in his really first debut year on the tour, which is very insane and crazy for Brad to say something like that. The hype for Fonseca was extreme. With Tien, though, he pulled off, in my opinion, an even more impressive victory, beating, again, a 3-time finalist in Medvedev. Medvedev was a tougher opponent compared to Rublev. A lot of people called for Fonseca to beat Rublev anyway. So Tien winning this was much more of a shock, and the fashion he did it, 5 sets after holding match point and being able to come back and outlast him in a 10-point deciding breaker late in the morning. I think the match didn't finish until 10 a.m. or something, 11 a.m. on the East Coast in the U.S. So yeah, it's baffling to me why Tien isn't getting the same love and admiration. There are multiple factors in play. Joao Fonseca is Brazilian, so the Brazilians are going to show up for their guy. But even aside from that, once again, the American media was hyping up Fonseca a lot. And I think some of it is due to the hype he already had, because not only did he win the U.S. Open Juniors last in 2023, beating Tien in the finals, he also won the Next Gen ATP Finals, once again, beating Tien in the finals. He also won a Challenger tournament in Canberra, leading into this Australian Open. But to be honest, I don't think that's as relevant as to why there's such a discrepancy between the hype, because Tien, I think it boils down to just, first of all, the game style. Tien's game style isn't as flashy. He's a smart player, a very much smart player. He plays high percentage tennis, and to me, I find his tennis entertaining, but a lot of people might be more attracted to that higher risk, flashier tennis that Fonseca produced and that Rublev win. Tien kind of reminds me low-key of Angelique Kerber, aside from them both being lefty, but they're incredible athletes, both sponsored by Adidas as well, and they can counterpunch very well when they need to. So I think that's one thing I had in mind watching Learner Tien. But also, I feel like the tennis fans, or whatever it is, they have like a predetermined notion on who's going to be a tennis star and who is not. I truly feel that if Learner Tien did the things that Fonseca did as far as winning the next gen ATP finals and winning US Open Juniors and winning a challenger coming into the tournament, he wouldn't be getting still nowhere near the same hype as Fonseca. Again, it boils down to the game style, also in the nationality too. People were saying, oh, Fonseca is just simply more talented than Tien. It is really not too much about talent, because I'm not bashing her because I love her. Anyone who knows me knows I love Alicia Parks. Alicia has more, I know it sounds like a silly metric, but for example, Instagram followers than a lot of top people that are in the top 20. It comes down to, like, I guess your aura and things like that. In my opinion, Tien has a great personality. I loved his post-match interview, but it's just, you either have it or you don't. It's really interesting. But regardless, I do think the discrepancy in hype is wild. Tien should have much more attention on him, at least compared to what Fonseca got, and that's going to be my take of the day. You argue about it in the comments if you want to, but I'm not saying that Fonseca doesn't deserve attention, although I do believe it was a little bit overkill. I'm simply saying that Tien deserves more. That's all I'm saying. Anyways, I'm intrigued to see what he does in his next matches, not only in this Australian Open, but in the future. I'm a big fan of his for sure. I think the next gen finals really prepared these men a lot. A lot of players have had very strong starts to the season, and the finals were held later in the year, towards the end of 2024 in Saudi Arabia, and you had Nishesh Basav already made the Auckland semifinals and pushed Novak Djokovic in a tough four-setter. Of course, Joao Fonseca won the next-gen finals, had that big win over Rublev. Jakob Mensik had that big win over Casper Ruud. Alex Mikkelsen beat Tsitsipas, is in the third round. Arthur Fils is also in the third round, and then now Learner Tien with a huge win and is in his first slam main draw third round. So yeah, I think this next gen is very, very promising. Speaking of the big next gen star of the moment, Joao Fonseca, by the way, he got a little bit of a reality check after losing to Italian Lorenzo Sonego 6-7, 6-3, 6-1, 3-6, 6-3 in the second round. Fonseca notably was not playing the same level of tennis that we saw in the opening round against Andrey Rublev, and I low-key anticipated this to happen. Joao did not go for his forehand as much as he did against Rublev for a decent portion of the match, and he also struggled particularly on his return. Didn't really go for that either. A lot of times he kind of chipped it and didn't get much on his return, and that enabled Sonego to dictate a lot of proceedings, especially behind his own serve. Fonseca was also a little bit more error prone in this match, had 40 winners to 40 unforced errors, which is solid, but I believe he had a plus 20 something differential in his Rublev match. So again, that goes to show he didn't play at the same level that he did in his first round match. Joao did do well to force a decider, and he had a good opening still to win this match with a break point at 3-all, although he wasn't able to convert it, and after that he didn't win another game. I don't think Fonseca played as freely because, unlike versus Rublev, he wasn't the underdog, and he had far much more attention and hype with him, and he was viewed as more of the favorite, and he had a lot more eyes again on him. People were already penciling him to play Medvedev in the fourth round, which I think is insane for this to be his first slam main draw. Best of 5 is a different animal, and the kid is only 18 years old. Again, I think a lot of people were irresponsible by how they hyped him, and then you even had one idiot making a tweet comparing him to Emma Raducanu's US Open one where she won it as a qualifier without dropping a set. Like, who would say such a thing? Like, come on, people. But all jokes aside, this was one match. The Rublev match was one match, and the things that we were hearing off of this one match was insane. Again, people were coming for me after I said that him finishing top 10 by the end of the year is a wild take, and I stand by that. That's a very wild take. Even if he finished top 40, that would be huge for him. I think the silver lining in this is that we should pump the brakes and trying to crown tennis's next big star and just let them be, because it really can impact them. I know he'd be disappointed to not come out with a W, but Joao still has so much to be proud of from this tournament. Advanced to the main draw as a qualifier without dropping a set. Of course, the big Rublev win. He had that 14-match win streak stretching from the next-gen final, so it's just the beginning for him. And it's also, on a side note, nice to see. It was nice to see all the Brazilian fans in the crowd in the 1537 arena. So it's going to be a great thing to see him grow the sport even more in the South American region. Now, this section, which belonged to Daniil Medvedev, is very open, as one of these four guys, Sonego, Marozsan, Mute, or Tien, will make their first slam quarterfinal. Francis Tiafoe had a big missed opportunity, I believe, to make the quarters as he lost to Fabian Marozsan in 5 sets. Francis had a lot of missed breakpoint opportunities in this match, particularly in the fourth set, where he had 10 and he was 0 for 10 in that fourth set. He's going to be kicking himself for that. I also think he struggled a lot on his serve. He couldn't hold easily at all. The struggles for Francis outside of the U.S. continue. Simple as that. He won't return inside the top 10 with these types of losses, and he's got to find a way to lock in and still get these wins outside of when he plays in his home country. Taylor Fritz is going to be the huge favorite to make the semifinals, as he's only lost 8 games in his first few matches. He played Gael Monfils next, who's been on a 7-match win streak right now, and I don't see him getting to 8 against Fritz, but you never know what could happen. Fritz's potential 4th round match, I think, will be a tough test as he plays either Ben Shelton or Lorenzo Musetti, which I think is a big popcorn match to watch in itself, and I would give the edge to Big Ben there, to be honest. 20-year-old Alex Michelsen backed up his upset win over Tsitsipas by advancing to the 3rd round in straight sets. He'll now play Karen Khachanov, who beat Gabriel Diallo in 4 sets. I think this is a good opportunity for Michelsen to make the quarterfinals, to be honest. Khachanov is solid but beatable. If he won, he'd likely play Alex de Minaur, who is tough, but he's never made the quarterfinals at his home slam, so perhaps we might see some more nerves arise. And lastly, Jannik Sinner dropped his first set since the Shanghai Masters to Skulkate, but will still be the heavy favorite to advance to the Elite 8. He now faces American Marcos Giron, who will be playing his 2nd slam 3rd round match ever, so Sinner will be the huge favorite to win that one. Jannik could play Holger Rune in the 4th round, which would be a really good blockbuster matchup. Rune has been impressive thus far this tournament, especially after beating Matteo Berrettini, former semifinalist here, in 4 tight sets. Rune now plays Miomir Kecmanovic next, who shocked me by beating Hubert Hurkacz in straight sets. I thought that Hurkacz would be Sinner's biggest threat here, overall in the top half, to really maybe cause an upset. So big shock for that. Big shocker result there. That is it for my Day 5 Australian Open men's recap. Thank you for your patience. I know it's coming out much later, but blame Medvedev and Tien for finishing later. I needed to have a nap at some point. I'm not a robot. I'm human. Anyways, let me know what you thought about Tien's huge win and whether you believe he deserves more hype. Also, let me know in the comments why you think he doesn't have as much hype. Again, make sure you subscribe and click the notification bell so you are notified whenever I post my Day 6 Aussie Open recap as well. Thank you all so much for watching and for your support, and I'll see you all next time here on Christian's Court.